To me, so Keir Starmer is eyeing up this idea of access to. We have access to the single market. It's not like there's zero trade with the EU all of a sudden. This is basically paying to follow their rules again. This, honestly, whether you want to be in the EU or not want to be in the EU, surely, Mike, it amounts to a betrayal of what people voted for.
Well, people did vote for us to leave the European Union.
To the two, I would say, big economies of the future, whilst Europe, much like Britain, hasn't grown at all, because Europe, much like Britain, has put stupid rules on itself that has held back that kind of growth. Anything that ties us into those sorts of sclerotic, terrible rules will be a bad thing. Don't take it from me, take it from big tech companies, big AI companies, which again, the technology of the future. You can get cool new things happening in the UK that you cannot get in the European Union because they've got stupid backwards rules to protect a European AI industry that doesn't exist at all. But if we want to have access to...
Indeed, it's good to meet a friend again and to be here with you. We are friends and we are Europeans. We are very like-minded. We share the same interests and the same values. We face the same challenges, but we are complementary and also in defending our democracies.
Britain once again finds itself at a defining crossroads. But this time, the stakes may be even higher than they were 5 years ago after severing ties with the European Union in a historic break that reshaped the nation's global identity. A new political storm is brewing, and it isn't coming from Brussels, it's rising from the very heart of Downing Street.
Everyone knows that slogan, and everyone knows what it meant on immigration. Or at least, that's what people thought. Because what followed from the previous government, starting with the people who used that slogan, was the complete opposite. Between 2019 and 2023, even as they were going round our country, telling people with a straight face that they would get immigration down, net migration quadrupled, until in 2023 it reached nearly 1 million. That's about the population of Birmingham, our second largest city. That's not control, it's chaos. And look, they must answer for themselves. But I don't think that you can do something like that by accident. It was a choice made even as they told you, told the country, they were doing the opposite. A one-nation experiment in open borders, conducted on a country that voted for control. Well, no more. Today, this Labour government is shutting down the lab. The experiment is over. We will deliver what you've asked for time and again, and we will take back control of our borders.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer, once regarded as a cautious custodian of post-Brexit Britain, now faces accusations of engineering a quiet reversal, one that could draw the United Kingdom back under the shadow of Brussels' influence. These warnings are no longer faint murmurs. They are full-blown sirens, and the entire British establishment is starting to take notice.
People often say, well, you want to be Prime Minister, do you know how to make a tough decision? And my answer to that is, if you sat in a cell in a Caribbean jail with someone who's going to live if you get the argument right in their case and die if you don't, that's a pretty, that focuses the mind.
In a stunning development that has shaken Britain's political foundations, the country's most senior judge has reportedly requested an emergency audience with King Charles III. Not since the turbulent aftermath of the 2016 referendum have constitutional alarm bells rung this loudly. Sources suggest the judge was compelled to act after learning of Prime Minister Keir Starmer's controversial plans ahead of the May 19 UK-EU summit, plans that critics fear could permanently reshape Britain's sovereignty without public debate or parliamentary consent. Starmer has long argued that leadership demands difficult choices. He has previously suggested that true responsibility is forged under extreme pressure, where the consequences of getting it wrong are a matter of life and death. But critics now ask whether such reasoning is being used to justify decisions of historic consequence without democratic scrutiny. At the center of the controversy is a dramatic policy pivot. After pledging to honor the Brexit mandate and protect Britain's independence, Starmer is now accused of laying the groundwork for reintegration with key European institutions. Reports indicate a series of sweeping changes already underway. The reintroduction of EU food and agricultural standards, openness to the jurisdiction of European courts in selected areas, and quiet negotiations to expand immigration frameworks aligned with EU norms. To critics, this is no minor policy adjustment. It is the systematic dismantling of Brexit itself, not through referendums or open debate, but behind closed doors, through discreet handshakes, technocratic agreements, and an alarming lack of transparency. And so the question now echoing through Parliament, the media, and even the walls of Buckingham Palace is, this is Britain being pulled back toward the European Union, not by the will of the people but by the will of one man?
Speaking of the French, yesterday Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer met with President Emmanuel Macron. Now, the Daily Mail are reporting that the meeting was organised by none other than Tony Blair. He is reportedly pushing the Labour leader to consider even closer ties with the EU, possibly even to reverse Brexit. Now, it's important to note this is something Labour say they're not interested in doing, but with some EU leaders announcing a form of second-tier so-called associate membership, closer alignments with the single market and greater access to the EU, is this something that a Starmer-led government might consider? Well, joining
At the heart of the growing backlash lies a single decision critics describe as the ultimate betrayal: Starmer's reported willingness to allow the European Court of Justice to regain jurisdiction over UK-EU legal disputes. Yes, the very court that became a symbol of foreign overreach during the Brexit campaign. The same institution millions of voters believe they had left behind for good. Now, under Starmer's leadership, it may once again exert authority over British law. To many, it feels like déjà vu, but without the democracy the public voted to take back control. Starmer now appears prepared to hand it away, rebranding the move as pragmatism. For those who remember the fierce battles of Brexit, that word no longer sounds reassuring. It sounds dangerously hollow, and it doesn't end there.
In this moment, we have to recognise the new era that we are in, not cling hopelessly to the comforts of the past. It's time for us to take responsibility for our security, for our continent. And I've been clear today, Britain will take a leading responsibility, as we always have, because Ukraine must have a secure future, Europe must have a secure future, Britain must have a secure future, and democratic values must prevail.
Starmer's inner circle is reportedly finalizing a youth mobility agreement with the European Union, an initiative that would reopen Britain's doors to thousands of young Europeans, granting access for work, study, and temporary residence. The proposal is being marketed as a modern, post-Brexit compromise, aimed at easing labour shortages and strengthening international cooperation. But for many critics, this is the first crack in the dam. They warn it is a Trojan horse disguised as a youth scheme. Today, limited mobility. Tomorrow, the return of full freedom of movement for a country that endured years of political turmoil to bring that policy to an end. The warning lights are now flashing red.
What that's done is make us all a hell of a lot poorer. So all of us are poorer,
But
there are
what
fewer
were we
jobs,
leading?
our
Because
wages have been kept down, there's less incoming investment from other nations and foreign investors. It's made all of our lives worse. What Keir Starmer's trying to do is keep Brexit, so not go back on that vote, and you're right, people did vote for that, it's right therefore that we're out. But what he's trying to do is make the best of a bad job. So do a Brexit that makes us less worse off.
James, I mean, there's 1,000 things I could say, but it's your job to do that instead of me right now.
Unsurprisingly, I disagree with this idea that it's made us enormously poorer in all kinds of ways. Just in the past week, we've seen the first glimpses of what an independent trade policy will look like with India, with the United States. Those deals are not perfect, but they're a start. They're good, and they're good relative to what the EU has had. And lots of people say, you'll never get a deal with India, you'll never get a deal with America. Well, it's happened, and those are the two, I would say, big economies of the future. Whilst Europe, much like Britain, hasn't grown at all, because Europe, much like Britain, has put stupid rules on itself that has held back that kind of growth. Anything that ties us into those sorts of sclerotic, terrible rules will be a bad thing. Don't take it.
Public frustration is steadily mounting, especially in the aftermath of Labour's bruising losses in the recent local elections. Reform UK, the party that positions itself as the torchbearer of Brexit, surged past Labour in several working-class heartlands once thought permanently loyal to the red banner. The message was anything but subtle. It was a roar of disapproval. Most leaders would pause, reflect, and recalibrate. But Starmer appears to be doing the opposite. Instead of slowing down, he is accelerating, pushing deeper EU alignment, expanding policy overlap, and showing diminishing interest in what voters across Britain are actually saying. The road ahead is starting to look uncomfortably familiar. Except this time, no one asked for the journey. Even Britain's defence policy is now being drawn into the equation. Defence Secretary John Healey has acknowledged that the UK is prepared to pay into EU defence programmes. That means British taxpayers helping fund joint military projects, while decision-making power remains firmly in Brussels. UK firms would contribute financially, but it would be the EU that decides how the money is spent. In return, Britain is offered a seat at the table, just not the authority to set the agenda. This is being sold as cooperation. To many, it feels more like surrender, Britain writing the check while Brussels cashes it. And it doesn't stop there. Reports suggest the UK could be drawn into the EU's expanding rearmament agenda, including surveillance coordination, joint military planning, and even AI-driven defence systems. The implication is stark: British soldiers, intelligence assets, and strategic priorities gradually aligning under European command. This is no mere partnership. It is a shift in allegiance. That shift has reportedly triggered alarm at the very top of Britain's legal system. According to insiders, a senior figure within the Supreme Court has raised serious constitutional concerns over Starmer's quiet realignment with Europe, particularly the potential re-empowerment of the European Court of Justice over British affairs. Legal experts warn such a move could strike at the foundations of the UK's constitutional independence. In response, the judge is said to have reached out directly to King Charles III, requesting an urgent meeting. While the monarch cannot intervene in politics, the request itself underscores the gravity of the situation. Concern is reportedly growing within palace walls. As one insider put it bluntly, there is a sense that the will of the people is being eroded behind closed doors, without transparency or consent. And now, the strategy is moving into plain sight. Starmer isn't just operating through back channels. He is preparing a major public moment. On May 19th, London will host a high-profile UK-EU summit. Ursula von der Leyen is expected to attend. Antonio Costa as well. The event is being promoted as the dawn of a new era in UK-EU relations. But behind the podiums and the handshakes, agreements are waiting to be signed. Agreements that inch Britain ever closer to Brussels. Once again, we've seen this playbook before: polished speeches, carefully chosen words, and behind them, the quiet dismantling of Brexit.
It's good to meet a friend again and to be here with you. We are friends and we are Europeans. We are very like-minded. We share the same interests and the same values. We face the same challenges, but we are complementary and also in defending our democracy.
Starmer's inner circle is reportedly finalizing a youth mobility agreement with the European Union, an initiative that would reopen Britain's doors to thousands of young Europeans, granting access for work, study, and temporary residence. The proposal is being presented as a modern, post-Brexit compromise, designed to support labour markets and promote international cooperation. But for many critics, it represents the first crack in the dam. They warn it is a Trojan horse disguised as a youth scheme. Today, limited mobility. Tomorrow, the return of full freedom of movement for a country that endured years of political upheaval to bring that policy to an end. The warning signs are flashing red. For Starmer, this is his defining moment, the move he hopes will shape his legacy. He wants to be remembered as the leader who repaired Britain's relationship with Europe. But critics argue this isn't repair at all. They say it is a quiet reversal, dismantling Brexit piece by piece, without a single vote being cast. That brings us to the end of today's critical update. Let us be clear, our aim is not to stoke fear or spread misinformation. Everything discussed here is based on verified reporting and real developments within the UK government and legal system. If you believe the public deserves transparency, if you think decisions of this magnitude should not be made behind closed doors, then your voice matters now more than ever. Share this video, leave a comment below, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the Britain Info channel for clear, no-nonsense updates on the stories that truly shape your future. Thank you for watching.